Alright guys, welcome to another video on City Dynasty, and today I'm gonna do a character guide on Julio and kind of talk about how to actually play him correctly during matches, etc. Because he's actually the character I main on my account, and just kind of from playing in matches, I can kind of tell both the opponents and also my teammates doesn't actually know Julio, how quiet does he work, etc. Maybe because he's an original character, no one really paid attention, but he is actually, in my opinion, probably the best free-to-play power forward in the game right now. So I'm definitely going to talk about how to actually play him correctly, and hopefully you guys can learn a couple of tips and tricks from this video as well. Now let's start off with just kind of quickly going through his skills. So basically a lot of his skills are pretty important, but there are also a few which you can definitely ignore if you want to be very budget with his, which skills you actually want to level up. His ultimate, completely max it out. This is probably his most important skill. You definitely want that. This one also very important because it kind of allow you to charge up your ultimate skill. So you definitely want this as well because it can increase your morale. So kind of charge up towards the next ult, etc. Catch and shoot. There is this one. This is more for if you actually want to be very offensive with your attack. However, vast majority of the time you are not really playing that offensive role with Julio. You are more kind of just stretching out the enemy center, which I will talk about in a bit. But yeah, for me, I don't think you actually have to unlock his skill here. Then from this one, driving dunk. I actually personally think it's quicker for you just to dunk yourself rather than do a pump fake and allowing the opponent get some momentum to actually get into position to block you. So I don't think you need to level up this skill either. This one is his kind of main rebound ability, so you definitely want to max this out. This one is a bit tricky. I think eventually I will max it out. It's just that this skill is quite useless if you're actually facing against the enemy center, which a lot of time that's the matchup I really want. However, if you're actually not facing up against enemy center, so for example, you have another big man on your team, and therefore you're actually facing against a enemy scorer or something like that, or enemy guard, then this could actually potentially be useful. But even then, probably the most important one is this increased contact range, so that you can just stop the enemy drive, etc. So I'll say this one is probably lower priority than the other skills, but eventually you do want to max it out as well. And then this is blocking skill. You definitely want to max this for sure. But yeah, so that's kind of how you want to go about with all of his skills. Now, the other thing I will point out is his attribute. What makes him really, really strong in comparison to other power forward and also centers is that he has really strong mid-range ability. So that basically means you can actually shoot mid. Even though if you actually take a look at all of his skills, there's nothing about just kind of shooting a mid-range ball. But that is, you can just do that with a normal attack. You don't really need to do anything else. And having such a high raw attribute stats basically allows you to actually stretch out and draw the enemy center away, because the enemy center have to guard against your mid range, and therefore it open up the paint to your other attackers on your team, which is kind of the reason why he is really, really good in my opinion. Because if you actually take a look at the other power forwards, none of them actually have that ability to consistently shoot mid range. Kuminga can do it, but Kuminga lacks kind of the blocking and also the rebound defensive capability at the same time. So that's kind of why overall I think Junior is actually the best free-to-play options. Now I'm going to show you guys a few tips and tricks now to talk about how do you actually want to attack or position yourself in an actual match with Julio, and then I will also show a few game clips on how to actually use his ultimate skill correctly, because that's probably the thing which requires the most skill when actually playing him. Now let me just quickly show you guys in actual practice. So this is something you guys should do a lot with any character you play, to be honest. So basically just go into the practice mode, you go into the free mode, free practice, and then kind of just play around with it. So there's a few things you want to know with Julio is that Julio, the way you play Julio is going to be very different depending on whether there's another big man on your team, so whether there's another center or power forward on your team. And the reason is, like I said, Judo have very consistent mid-range. So let's say if the enemy, sorry, your team only have one center, or one big man, so i.e. Julio is the only big man on your team, that means your Julio will be directly facing the matchup against enemy center. If the enemy center is someone who is slow, very likely going to be slower than Julio. In order to actually guard Julio's mid-range, so just a simple attack like this, right? No skill required, just a simple shoot like this, what allows you to do is you have to draw the enemy forward, so the enemy center would have to come closer to do this, to actually guard your mid-range. And that basically allow your other members of the team to actually attack the paint, because now there's no one else actually guarding under the rim. And that is basically how you can then open up your offensive capability. So even if Julio, even if you're not planning to attack, literally just by standing here, you are already going to put up a lot of pressure on the enemy center. And that basically allow your teammate to either attack the basket if the center is not guarding you, or if the center just squatting down under the basket, they will just pass to you and you just do a simple shoot. And that's basically how you want to play it ideally if Julio is kind of the only big man on your team. So, there's no other center or other power forward, etc. Now, if there's actually going to be another power forward or another center on your team, now it's get a bit tricky, because the enemy, for example, if your center just happened to be squatting down under the basket, then what it basically means is that the enemy center will be guarding your center, and then whoever you'll be facing up can actually guard you a lot closer, and then you kind of lacks that offensive capability or offensive threat. And basically in those kind of situations, ideally your center want to stretch out the paint as well. So if your center is someone like Jovic or Paul Gasol, who actually have the ability to shoot three pointers, that would be the ideal scenario. That will be the ideal teammate to actually pair up with Julio if you actually want a second center or a second big man, because they can then draw the enemy to the baseline and then allowing your Julio in those kind of senses, because there will still be someone guarding Julio, right? Because the enemy center is guarding your center, so someone else will be guarding Julio. However, what you can then do is, rather than Julio attacking kind of around the perimeter, what you can actually do is more around this kind of range where you have both ability to sorry, that's not the one I want, to catch and shoot. So for example here, I can catch and shoot here. Or the other option is that within this kind of range, I can also just dunk straight away as well. So basically that means is that if someone's guarding you, they basically have to decide which attack they actually want to defend against, because if they actually want to block your dunk, they kind of need to stand across in this area, whereas if they actually want to guard against your shoot, then they have to be a lot closer to you. So basically now you're just kind of taking a guess, or the enemy will have to be taking a guess whether they will want to block your catch and shoot, or they will want to actually stand closer to the rim to actually block your dunk. And once again, it open up an offensive capability for you. So that's kind of what, depending on where the what's your team composition, whether there's another center or another powerful on your team, your position of junior should be slightly different. If you are literally the only big man, then I would suggest standing a lot closer to the perimeter to draw out the space, and then ideally you then have another teammate who can actually attack the rim without needing to worry about the enemy center rushing back to defend them. Or if there is actually another center or another big man on your team, then you should be kind of standing in this kind of range where you have then the choice of catch and shoot or do a dunk, and basically you're forcing the enemy to take a guess on which attack you'll be using. Okay, now that we have covered Julio's offensive capability, let's talk about how he can help defending as well, which, to be honest, is the area where he actually excel at. It's definitely more defensive than offensive character, and a lot of them is going to be down to how you want to use his ultimate skill, and that's kind of the skill which is required in order to actually play Julio correctly. Now, his ultimate skill, for some reason, I can't actually show you at training. I don't know what's wrong here, but basically what it does, it just kind of dash forward, and that can close up the distance a lot. And you can use this in various different scenarios. I think the main three scenarios you want to use this for. One is for rebound, one is for blocking, and one is for chasing after loose balls. Also, there's a fourth one. You can actually use this offensive as well if your teammate actually knows how to cooperate with you. But basically, the first scenario, chasing up a rebound. So remember, I talked about a lot of time you actually want to play Julio around kind of the perimeter to draw out that space, right? Draw the center towards you. However, if your teammate actually decide to shoot, rather than attacking the rim, but better shoot a three-pointer or shoot a mid-range, and there could be a rebound, then there's no one basically under the basket to actually get that rebound. And because the center is likely to be going to be closer to the basket than you, because he will be guarding around here, it's very likely you'll be losing that rebound, which is quite annoying. However, what you can do is basically dash towards the rim and then actually go and catch the rebound. So that's basically one way where you can use the ultimate skill. I don't actually typically recommend this a lot unless you know it's going to be a rebound, because the vast majority of the time, well, you hope your teammate will either attack the basket directly because you already draw the meant to draw the center away, or if they are actually deciding to shoot, they have like an open opportunity. So vast majority of the time, you hope that you don't have to go back to actually catch a rebound. But if you can see very clearly, for example, it has been interfered, their shot has been interfered, and it's definitely going to be a rebound, then you can then use this to actually then quickly rush back and then go and try to contest for that rebound. So that could be one way of how you want to use this ultimate skill. The second way I want to do, which is the one I use personally the most, is actually for blocking. So basically, you want to know the distance that you are able to charge forward and then still successfully block. You can basically do this in the training mode, by the way. Just go into skill practice and try against the very different matchup you may have. Once you figure out the ideal distance, what you can then do is in the actual matches, there's no need for you to stand so close to your whoever you're marking in order to actually block them, because now you can just quickly rush back in order to actually block them instead. So what you can then do is you can then now keep an eye out for another character on the enemy's team who could be possessing a threat, and whenever, let's say, your teammate lost them, for example, they were hit by a screen, or maybe they were just too far away from whoever they're marking, then you don't have the opportunity to actually use your ultimate skill to not just defend against whoever you're marking, but also against whoever your teammate should be supposed to be marking, etc. And I'll show you loads of game clip where I do this as well. This is probably for me the biggest value Julio is able to bring, that he's actually able to assist in defense, especially if you're actually playing solo matches and your teammates are just not quite as good. It's actually really helpful to help them to assist and still help your team out, etc. So that's basically another way you can use it. The third way is a lot more simpler. Basically, when there's a loose ball, you can just use this to rush forward and try to catch that loose ball. Those are normally quite good idea as well, because it's less timing required, right? You just literally press this and you go faster than everyone else. You don't even need to worry about timing your block or timing your rebound, etc. And that's an easy way for you to convert possession. So I will also recommend using this to chase after loose ball a lot. And then the fourth one is basically, I normally recommend only this for buzzer beaters, and you kind of need the teammate know what you're doing. But let's say, for example, you're out of time, you need to quickly attack. What you can do is when the match starts, sorry, no, when the match starts, when the turn starts, what you can do, literally just quickly spam your ultimate skill, you'll be rushing straight into the basket. Hopefully, one of your teammate will pass to you, and you can literally just dunk or do whatever you want. Sorry, that's just a random shot, but you can literally just, for example, you can go here, the turn starts, you rush in, someone pass to you, you then go a dunk. And that's also a very easy way for you to score something very last minute. But this basically require your teammate actually passing towards you, because if you lost that first chance, right, if you done this, the enemy was caught off guard, but your teammate didn't pass you, you kind of then wasted this ultimate and not able to do anything. So vast majority of the time, I wouldn't really recommend using it for offensive capability. However, if it's kind of in the last minute buzzer beater, you can use this, just try your luck, and hopefully the teammate will pass to you, or at least you will be able to draw away the tension and therefore giving your teammate another chance to attack as well. Let me show you guys a couple game clips where I have actually used this ultimate skill in actual matches, and then you get a sense of where you will be able to use them as well, okay? So for the very first one, I'm going to show you guys, this is a case where I lost a rebound, and the enemy basically have a score open. However, what you can do is, you can see I rushed literally from the basket under the rim all the way to the perimeter to help defend against them with a block. So literally use an ultimate attack and then press block, and then that can help to block any open plays because no one's actually guarding him. And then what you can see me do here is use an ult again to chase after that loose ball. Okay, so in this match, basically because the opponent has Jovic, so what you would see is that he will be help setting up a lot of screens and your teammates could be hit by the screen as a result. So what you want to do is just keep an eye out in case your teammate, for example here, got hit by the screen, and then you will use your ultimate to close up the gap and to actually interfere or block the shot. Okay, now let me show you another gameplay. This was actually a really good match. So even though this is not where I use the ult, I just kind of want to showcase it. So basically, just never give up if there's time on the clock. So what you can see here, remember, Julio has the ability to shoot mid. So there's only 3 seconds left. Quick pass, shoot mid. That brought us to overtime, which is great. And then I believe the actual highlight of the ult is potentially something around here. Let's see. Basically, I was bumped and I couldn't actually catch that rebound, but I was lucky enough to block it. Now here was a bit of a misplay from me. I actually had my ult ready already, and I should have just used my ult to chase after the loose ball after I block it. But I was in front, so I thought I could catch it, but I forgot Paul obviously have the skill. But that's okay, because I used my ult again to actually then use that to time my block, as you see here. So I missed that. Enemy pass back, quickly ult to block, and then I ult again trying to catch it, but then I realized my ally was right there, so there's no need. And yeah, so that's basically another time when you can actually use your ult to quickly rush back to either chase a loose ball or obviously to actually do the block.
Julio blocks